Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Sydney. I film cruelty-free beauty videos, and today's video is one that I'm pretty excited about because today we're talking about some single shadows. So I feel like single shadows was something that I really wanted to incorporate into my channel more last year, or maybe it was the year before. No, I think it was last year. I started a series, I want to call it, I think it was called like the Single Shakeup Challenge or something like that, and I tried to create a singles palette every single month. I think I did it for like 3 months and then the videos weren't doing so well, so I stopped doing it. But I really do want to find a way to bring single shadows back onto my channel because there's something that I have a lot of in my collection that I really enjoy and that I really want to share with you guys. So today I'm kicking off what I'm hoping is going to be a new series on my channel, and today I'm going to be sharing 4 curated palettes that I made for springtime. So I don't know if I'll do this every single season or maybe I'll do it for like trends or by brands. I haven't quite decided yet. But I would like to make this kind of reoccurring series on my channel, so I'm really hoping that you guys enjoy it. As I said, I'm going to be sharing 4 curated palettes that I made for springtime, kind of some springy color stories. And in this video, I'm going to go in depth and share my inspiration, because I did get a lot of inspiration from Instagram, but kind of share my thought process behind these palettes, which shades I used, and possibly a tutorial. I haven't decided yet. But that's enough blabbering on. Let's hop into the video. Alright you guys, so as I said, I made 4 different palettes. The first 3 are a little bit smaller, but then I did end up making a big old giant one in the end. I originally planned on making 3 palettes. I thought that would be a nice number of palettes to throw at you, but I was having so much fun, I had to make another one. So before we hop into each of the individual palettes, I did film like a super, I hope it's super satisfying, little time-lapse video of me creating these palettes. So I will insert that footage right here. So I will insert that footage right here for your enjoyment. I'm such a dork. So a lot of these palettes are not your traditional spring palette. I kind of drew inspiration for what spring weather is where I live. Yes, things do bloom when they start to turn green, but they're also kind of muddy and cloudy and gloomy. So I'm really excited to share those color stories with you guys. Let's hop into the first palette. So the first palette that I created, I just put in this little AOA Studio mini palette. I will link the palettes that I used down below if they are still available. This one's just from Shop Missy. They have some very affordable magnetic palettes, but it's just a cute little 9-pan palette. And this one has some greens, it has some purples, it has some mauve-y purpley shades. This may be a common theme in another palette as well, but we'll get into that in a minute. But this one was actually inspired by Beauty Betrayers on Instagram. I will link her account down below. She creates really, really gorgeous singles palettes. If you guys are looking for some singles inspiration, definitely head over there. But I wanted this palette to kind of reflect what was going on outside. As I said, there's a little bit of green coming through, but there's also a lot of murky, muddy tones, which we kind of get right here. And then I just love the soft pinky tones paired with the greens and with the mauves. I thought it would really go together very, very nicely. So let's hop into the shadows that are in this palette. So in the first row, we have Lethal Cosmetics Void, which I would describe as a soft pastel green. Then we have Sydney Grace Green Mango, which is a metallic, I would call this a metallic mint shade that leans a little bit more green than it does blue. And then finally we have Sydney Grace Siren Call, which is just a beautiful deep matte kind of hunter green. Starting in the second row, we have a bit of a Franken shadow. This one is a combination of Colourpop Thank You Next along with Looxi Dollface. These both broke at the same time and I couldn't separate the two. Then we have Colourpop Made to Last, which is a beautiful, I would say kind of neutral to cool toned brown shade. And then finally we have Colourpop Going Steady, which is a deep matte plum. Next up we have Winky Luxe Purr. This one I did depot from the Winky Luxe Kitten palette, but it's just a beautiful kind of metallic soft pink shade. But then we have Sydney Grace The Greatest Gift. This is one of the most beautiful shadows I have in my collection. This shade has a beautiful purple base and it has a beautiful green golden shift. It is so incredibly beautiful. I love that shade so much. And then finally we have Sydney Grace Magic Act, and this is a beautiful kind of satin warm purple shade. So that wraps up this first palette. I think it is so beautiful. I haven't actually dipped into this one yet. Actually, I've only dipped into one of these palettes, if I'm being honest with you guys. But I am so excited. This process totally just reignited my love for my singles. So I feel like that last palette was pretty traditional springy tones. I mean, not pastels, but like if I were to think of spring in nature, I would probably think of those tones. This one is a little bit different. I chose to use my Lethal Cosmetics palette for this one because it is freaking adorable. But this is the second color story that I came up with. This one was inspired by Pan with Ida Mariel. I think that's her name. I of course have her link down below and I'll insert the picture on the screen. But that was who really gave me a lot of inspiration for this palette. This one, well, you guys know I just love green and I will use any excuse I can to put green on my eyes. But this one, I just felt like was perfect for what it's actually been looking like outside. Since I've been stuck at home, I have been going on daily walks. It's kind of the only thing that's really keeping me sane. And so I've spent a lot of time outside lately, and these are the tones that I'm really seeing outside in my natural spring weather. They're a little bit darker, a little bit grungy, a little bit murky. This palette could also totally work for fall, but I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna throw it in here. It's a little something different. This one is a little bit oddly shaped because I do have some Colourpop pans in here that were in their individual palettes, which are a little bit smaller than their singles, and then a JD Glow shadow and some square pans, so it's a little bit funky, but I absolutely love how the color story came out. So let's get into the individual shadows. So in the first row, we have another Winky Luxe shadow. This is from the Kitten palette as well, and it is in the shade Strut. It's just a beautiful matte, kind of like camel-y brown shade. It's a really great transition shade. Then we have Terra Moon's Hot Spice Cider. This is one of the most beautiful greens that I have in my collection. It has a very strong warm brown kind of terracotta base, but then a beautiful green shift to it that I just absolutely adore. Then we have the shade Petrichor from Lethal Cosmetics. I would describe this as a deep matte teal. Then we have the shade Recluse from Lethal Cosmetics, which I would describe as kind of a matte, dirty chartreuse shade. It's that beautiful mix between green and kind of like mustard yellow that I just love and I think pairs so beautifully with these tones. Then moving on to the second row, we have the shade Kiwi Fruit from Sydney Grace, and I would call this a pretty classic olive green. It's definitely on the deeper side of olive green, but I think it is absolutely stunning. Then we have the shade Queen of Mean, and this shade is so beautiful. It's from Looxi Beauty. It definitely pulls a little bit more blue than green, but it has, I don't even know how to describe this one. It shifts between like a beautiful bright teal to kind of a deeper royal blue and even maybe a little bit indigo. It is so beautiful. I just can't describe it. Next up we have the shade Blurred Lines from Colourpop. This one was depotted from their Chasing Rainbows palette. It's a beautiful ivory shade with lots of gold shimmer throughout it. I thought that would pair beautifully with these shadows for the inner corner. Then moving on to the third row, we have the shade Key Lime from Sydney Grace. This is more of a... This green is a little bit deeper than the other Sydney Grace green that I have in here, and I feel like it's less olive, more of a true green. Then we have the shade Monterey from Sydney Grace, and this is just your beautiful, typical warm brown shadow. This one's a little bit deeper than most, I would say, but it is gorgeous. Then I have the shade Realness from Colourpop. This was again from their Chasing Rainbows palette. It's just a beautiful, deep, rich chocolate brown shade. And then finally, the star of this palette, I have JD Glow 365. Where do I even begin with this shadow, you guys? It is one of the most beautiful shades I own in my collection. It's that beautiful kind of greeny golden shifty shade. This one has a lot of texture to it, a lot of shimmer. It's very, very intense. It's like Hot Spice Cider on steroids. So I feel like Hot Spice Cider is your like everyday version of this shade, and then when you go out, you throw on 365. I think it's absolutely stunning. Alright, you guys, so I think that wraps up this palette. I think this one may be my favorite. I haven't really decided yet, but I love this one. It was so much fun to create. Then next up we have another 12 pan palette. This one actually has 12 pans in it, unlike the other one. And this palette's just from Colourpop. It was one of their succulent palettes that came out, I think, last spring or maybe in the fall. But for this one, again, I wanted to create something that was a little bit different for a spring color story. This one, I kind of went for the gloomy weather we've been having the past couple of weeks. It's been very gray, very dull. But I guess I didn't put a lot of gray in here. It's just kind of like murky blue tones. There's some pops of pastel, some pops of purple brightness, but for the most part, it's a little bit murky. It kind of reminds me of like a cloudy day. I was inspired to create this palette by a palette that M. Jones 5018 created on Instagram. She creates really, really beautiful looks, you guys, so definitely go give her a follow. But I was inspired by a palette that she posted a little while ago. Let's hop into some swatches and shade specifics in this palette. Okay, the first shade in this palette is one of my favorite singles that I have in my collection. It is Terra Moon's Snow Globe. This is a bit more of a sheer, sparkly, glittery shadow, but it is so incredible. It's well worth getting wet or patting over glitter glue. It has beautiful pink, purple, blue, green sparkles in it. It is so magical, whether you pop it in the inner corner or layer over some other shadows. I love how transformative that shade is. The next shade that I included is Looxi Foxy Lady. This is such a unique shade. I don't have anything else like it in my collection. It looks to have kind of a steely lavender type base, but it has a beautiful gold reflect. It's a very soft shadow, but I thought it would be absolutely beautiful placed over the lid or even in the inner corner. Next up, we have the shade Teacup from Colourpop. I think this one came from their All I See Is Magic palette, which was a Christmas release a few years ago, but I have since depotted it. Then we have Sydney Grace Mint Green, and this is just a beautiful, super intense, metallic, perfect mint green shade. I think this one pulls a little bit more blue than some mints I have in my collection, but it's absolutely gorgeous. Now moving on to the second row, we have Looxi Beauty November Rain. This one is a beautiful kind of like, I feel like it's a true indigo shade. It's not super vibrant, it's a little bit murky, which makes me feel like it has some kind of like gray undertones. It's absolutely stunning. I couldn't think of a better shade to represent kind of a murky, gloomy sky. Then we have Looxi Beauty Charmed, which is a beautiful, soft, kind of lavender shade that shifts from like a lilac to a blue. Again, absolutely stunning. Then we have Sydney Grace Magenta Dreams. This one is such a beautiful, vibrant purple. I feel like it's like Looxi Beauty Charmed, but turned up to 10 and kind of like deepened a little bit. I think it is so stunning, so metallic, absolutely beautiful. Then we have Menagerie Cosmetics Blue Tang. This one's a beautiful matte cobalt blue. I don't think that this one's available anymore, which makes me feel bad for putting it in this palette, but it's in my collection. You guys know I'm all about using what I have, so I'm gonna love on this one a little bit. Next up, we have a shade that is so special in this palette, and it is Clionadh Cosmetics Abrasion. I believe this is one of their glitter multi-chromes. It is pure magic. Oh my goodness. It has a very strong kind of reddish burgundy purple base, but it has beautiful blue and purple glitters throughout it. I'm in love with it. Next up, we have Lethal Cosmetics Surge, which I would describe as a beautiful pastel periwinkle shade. I thought it would add a little bit of brightness, a little bit of traditional springiness to this palette. And then we have Sydney Grace It's a Boy, which is a beautiful matte navy blue. I didn't want to put a brown in this palette, but I felt like I needed something to just deepen it up just a little bit more, so I thought that shade would be really perfect. And then finally we have another one from Sydney Grace, and this one is called Face Painter. It's a beautiful satin purple shade. Again, one that I feel like could function really, really well as kind of a deepener. Alright you guys, this last palette is a big one. Usually I don't really go for big palettes. I'm much more into curating smaller singles palettes, but when I saw this inspiration picture from my friend Julia, I knew that I had to create my own version. I fell in love with it. Julia's account is another really great one to follow if you guys need some singles inspiration or just some makeup inspiration in general. She creates the most beautiful looks. She curates beautiful palettes and then creates the looks with them. So if you guys are looking for some inspiration, definitely go check her out. She's fantastic. But here is the final palette, you guys. This one was so much fun to put together. I feel like this one is like this little baby one, but like super expanded. And I am so into it. I think these tones are so fun for spring. I think the green adds some freshness. The pink adds some freshness. The purple tones are kind of like my murky, like, oh, it's kind of muddy, the weather's kind of gloomy touch to this palette. But I am so excited about this one. I think it's so beautiful. I haven't dipped into this one yet. I need more eyeballs, you guys. I'm trying to do the Terminus video. I'm trying to play with my singles. I need more eyeballs, or I need to do my makeup more than once a day. That's entirely possible while we're quarantining. Maybe I need to start doing that, but I just think it's beautiful. Let's hop into some swatches and shade specifics for this palette. Okay, guys, so the first shade in this palette is from Terminus, and it is their Iridescent Chameleon in the shade Lunar Spectrum. To talk about this shade is to just make my heart happy. This one has beautiful green shifts. It shifts to gold. It shifts to like a pinky reddish tone. It may be my favorite iridescent multichrome. I feel like I say that every single time I swatch one of these shadows, but they are so beautiful. Next up, we have another shade from Terminus, and this is the shade Utopia. This is part of the pastel matte bundle, and I would describe it as like a matte pastel bubblegum pink. It is so unlike any of the other pastels I have in my collection. I adore it. Next up, we have Colourpop Not Playing, which this one's a little bit more of a sheer glittery shadow. It's from their Chasing Rainbows palette, which was their holiday release 2 years ago, I think. I thought this would be a really fun kind of toppery shade, or maybe I could even pop it in my inner corner. Next up, we have Menagerie Besties. This is such a beautiful shade, you guys. It's like a deeper version of NARS Orgasm. It shifts from like a coppery pinky shade to like a deep, rich, bronzy golden tone. It's incredibly beautiful. I really do adore that shade. The next shade in the palette is Clionadh Wildberry. This one's a matte purpley berry tone. It's not like a warm berry, it's more of like a cool tone berry, and I feel like that's pretty unique in singles, especially in palettes. I feel like we see warm berries a lot, but not necessarily cool berries. And then I had to throw a warm berry in, so I threw in Lethal Cosmetics Terminus, which is a beautiful matte deep berry pink. Beautiful. Moving on to the second row, I'm starting off with Terminus Libra. This is a beautiful pastel matte lavender shade. Absolutely stunning. Then I'm dipping into Colourpop Earthshine, which this one's very sheer. This one would probably function more as a topper for me as well. This one has more like blue iridescence in it and pink iridescence in it than the other one. Then I threw in the shade Mist from Clionadh. This is a beautiful metallic, soft, pale lavender-y shade. It's so beautiful. Again, I feel like that's where like my stormy weather's coming in. Next up, I threw in Terminus, I think this one's called UFO. It's one of their cosmic chameleons. These I don't find to be super shifty. I just find them to be really intense metallic shadows. This one I really debated on whether or not I wanted to include it because I feel like it's a little bit, not out of place, it's just a little bit more vibrant than most of the other tones in this palette, but I thought it might add some fun brightness to a look, so I threw it in anyways. 143, which is a beautiful matte. So Colourpop 143 is like a deep, semi-vibrant purple. I feel like it's a really beautiful tone of purple either way. And then finally we have Lethal Unity, which I would describe as a deep matte plum shade. It's a really gorgeous shade, and I thought would be a really nice deepener for this palette. Moving on to the third row, we have Sydney Grace Tangy Citrus. This is one of my favorite eyeshadows in my collection. It's like a beautiful, like a limey, like off-white limey shade. It's stunning. I absolutely adore it. Then we have Looxi Green Apple, which is like the perfect descriptor of this shade. It's a matte green apple shade. Then we have Terra Moon's Martian. And this shade is a little bit like Hot Spice Cider, but I feel like it has more green to it and less of that really super rich base. Then we have Lethal Cosmetics Eden, which is a deep matte, I would call this like a true green, like a Hunter Forest green. Then we have Colourpop Conjure Up, which is more of a blue-based green. It's not horribly different from that other one, but I thought it would be fun to throw it in here anyways. And then finally, we have Lethal Cosmetics Aether, which is a beautiful, deep teal green, satiny shade. It's really pretty. But this is the final palette, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed seeing these little custom curated palettes. But that is going to wrap up this video, you guys. I hope that you found it helpful. I hope it was fun to see me kind of playing with my singles, creating little color stories for you guys. Again, leave me your feedback down below. Do you want this to become a regular series on my channel? Should I just move it over to Instagram? I would love to know. If you guys do want to see other parts of this series, leave me like some category inspiration. Do you guys want to see it by brand? Do you guys want to see it by color? Do you want to see it for the seasons like I'm kind of doing right now? Leave it all down below. I would love to chat with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. I film a lot of Shop My Stash content. Lately I've been filming a lot of indie makeup content and I've really been enjoying it. But I'm gonna stop blabbering on for today and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye! Oh, my shirt's having issues. And then we have Sydney, just me. My hand is gonna be covered in glitter by the end of this video. Mark my words. I think I need a break. My camera is crooked.